Welcome back, nerds. I am Chad.
And I'm Jake, your host this week. And also this week, we are sponsored by Ray's Energy Drinks.
We are also sponsored by Crybaby Krang's Hot Sauce.
This week, we do have a little bit of a longer episode for you because we have a very special guest for our Halloween special talking about the paranormal. He is a broadcast journalist, documentarian, and has even worked on the TV show Ghost Hunters, Bruce Pearson.
Yeah. After that, we are going to talk about Titans, the season finale, and we are also going to talk about Dune, which released in theaters and HBO Max this week, and it's fucking fantastic.
So good.
Let's go into sponsor one, my dude.
Well, but first let's get into it, my dude.
Oh, yeah. Remember that time where I said, let's go into sponsor one, but I really meant,
let's get into it. Yeah, I do.
Hold on. Look how unprepared I am.
Look at how unprepared Jake is. Well, he's doing this. Professional.
I'm a professional.
So, guys, in case you were wondering, this is the All Things Nerd podcast.
Cheers.
Nerd. So, welcome back, everybody, to the All Things Nerd podcast. You know, your weekly dive into all things that is nerd. Jake, so this is our Halloween Spooktacular. You do anything spooky fresh this week in preparation for the All Hallows Eve?
We carved pumpkins, and we made pumpkin seeds. We went to a 90s party, my cousin Amrita's 90s party, and I did the fucking Kurt Cobain with the brains blown out. I did it. Yeah.
It was super fucked up, and
that was the first thing.
But it was hilarious.
When we got there, someone went, "Oh my god, it's Kurt Cobain," and I was like, "Sweet, somebody knows who I am." And then I turned around and showed him the back of my head, which had like blood all over it, and somebody was like, "Dude, that's fucked up."
That will never not be funny.
Other than that,
you guys carved pumpkins and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, we did pumpkins. We are gonna do something for Halloween. I don't know what yet, but what about you? What have you done spooktacular this week? Other than scare little kids in your neighborhood.
Just because I have a white van. I don't. It'll be much funnier when I buy a camper van, though. Absolutely nothing. It's a very...
That was so mean. I'm sorry.
It's fine. There, like, a lot of people have, like, put, like, stuff in their windows around the apartment complex of, like, hey, come trick or treat. I was like, please don't. That's about it. No, I haven't done really anything because, I mean, there's no outside space at my apartment. There's, like, nothing to, like... Which is a bummer, because I love Halloween. Like, I absolutely love Halloween. But even if I were to do something here, like, I don't think that we'd get trick-or-treaters. So, like... Kind of a bummer.
I don't think... I bought a bunch of candy, as you know.
I know, I took a bunch of it.
I don't think I'm going to get any either. Trick-or-treaters. So, I'll just be stuck with a bunch of candy. Which isn't the worst thing, so whatever.
Oh, darn.
Yeah. Which is why I bought candy that I like. Sour Patch Kids.
They're so good. I took a handful, and before I left, they were all gone. And I should have taken a second handful, but I didn't. Because you're like, those are for the trick-or-treaters. And I was like, how many are you going to have? And you're like, at least more than one.
I'm not.
And I was like, fine, I'll leave stuff.
If they come to my door, they're not going to. Okay? And if they don't come to my door, well, here's what's going to happen. If someone knocks on my door, Rogue, my dog, is going to bark like a fucking maniac. If they go through the patio door, before they even get to the fence, Rogue is going to bark like a maniac. So I don't think anyone's going to come here.
So what you're saying is I should have like gone through the bag meticulously for the flavors I wanted.
I'm just going to take handfuls of candy and be like, I'm sorry! And just throw it across the fucking fence.
What would be hilarious if both you and Nick were doing that and we're like, we're sorry.
We're sorry.
And
then I'm just going to take the box of ring pops that I have and just throw them as hard as I can at the parents of the kids. Not the kids, but the parents of the kids. Yeah.
This is what you get!
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, but so Halloween...
They should make trick-or-treating fun for parents, too. So if... This is what I'm going to do when I own a house, is I'm going to give out either beers or little mini shots.
I was going to say get just a bunch of nips. You know, the little, like
hey,
shot bottles.
Here's some candy for your kid. Here's a shot for you and me. Let's go. Cheers. And
you're going to get through, like...
hammered.
You're going to get through, like, 5 kids. That sounded wrong. You're going to get through, like, 5 trick-or-treaters. And then you're going to be like, I'm going to turn my lights off. It's night time.
Well, I can hand them a beer, too, and then just cheers them, take a sip, and then they can drink the beer while they go on their way, you know? It doesn't have to be a shot.
Well, you could have a beer and hand out nips.
Ooh,
you know, like,
see?
Yeah, and they'd be like, I need this.
This is why we click, man. This is why we click.
It's not the alternative genitalia that we both seem to have. It's not a lock and key.
Any fucking ways.
Sorry.
Sponsor numero uno. Oh.
Yeah, so our first sponsor this week is our main sponsor, which is Raise Energy Drinks. Fantastic energy drinks that provide 0 calorie, 0 sugar, 0 crash.
Energy and drink, you know.
Yeah, but they provide so much more than that as well. Like, you know, like protein-packed desserts, a lot of like pre-workouts and protein powders. They're fantastic, really. They really are. So go ahead, listen up. You'll learn how to save 15%, and when we come back, you'll hear from you'll get a chance to listen to our interview with Bruce Pearson, who's just fantastic, and Jake is trying to be super unprofessional.
I'm trying so hard not to
just
laugh.
Check it out. We'll be right back with Bruce, and honestly, it's a super fascinating interview, so check it out. We'll be right back. What's up, nerds? I wanted to take a minute and talk to you about Raise Energy, an incredible energy drink that provides max energy with 0 crash. Raise Energy takes a giant leap of faith with instilling a high-quality formula to bring a powerful, yet sustained, energetic experience to help you push your workouts and focus to the next level. Perfect for anyone at any time, and powered by their Refresh formula technology, Raise Energy delivers a performance-enhancing energy drink that aids in multiple different categories that include targeted focus, better recovery time, improved clean energy levels, and a boost in stamina and hydration. But most importantly, every can of Raise Energy has absolutely 0 calories, 0 sugar, and 0 carbohydrates to give you a smarter and healthier option. So don't settle for an energy drink that contains more sugar and carbohydrates than you can count. Instead, head over to repsports.com. That's REPPSPORTS.com and use the promo code NERDPODCAST at checkout for 15% off your order. Or if you don't know what you want, go ahead and click the link that's in the description to get a $50 sample pack for free. All you do is you cover the cost of shipping. Again, make sure you use promo code NERDPODCAST at checkout to let them know that we sent you. All right, welcome back, everybody. We're super excited. We have a very special guest this week. We've got Bruce Pearson, who has been a part of so many incredible things, including Ghost Hunters, and so many different like radio shows and broadcasts and stuff like that. So welcome to the show, Bruce.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. I appreciate you guys inviting me on. Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Geez, I don't know where to begin. I'm a native of Western New Jersey, Flemington area, where they held the Lindbergh trial. Grew up in rural Hunterdon County. A great family, parents, very cool parents. Did a lot of traveling when I was young, all over the United States, camping every summer. Undergraduate degree in New Mexico, which was really an incredible experience. You would have never thought, I never thought that Eastern New Mexico would have afforded me the opportunities and the things that I was able to do and the people I met. It was really pretty surprising. Then up to Denver, I got my degree in broadcast engineering, FCC licensing, and came back to West Jersey in '78. I'm very old, and started a very, very, I've been extremely lucky, but I've worked very hard. Next year will be my 50th year of broadcasting.
Wow.
Which is pretty hard to believe, but I started very early. I started at the high school as an FM station that we put on the air when I was a sophomore in high school. So technically that's when I started broadcasting. Okay, so sweet. 2022 will be my 50th year. And I spent over a decade in feature films early on. Started in news out in the Southwest in New Mexico. Got involved in documentary production just by accident. I worked as an evening anchor at the CBS affiliate in Roswell 2 years before anybody ever heard of Roswell. And that got me involved in investigative stuff. But I worked in, like I said, in features for about 10 years. Did about 12 years in network sports. Kind of fell in it with George Plimpton. 3 years with RCA Americom working on the Space Shuttle video program. Did about 15 years of documentaries all over the world, which is really where my heart is.
Okay.
I spent 3 years at William Patterson University up in Wayne, New Jersey, State University. Ran the broadcast center and taught as an adjunct up there. So a lot of live event stuff, touring, satellite uplinking, projection work, pretty much the gamut. And on the radio side, I guess I worked at, in traditional terms, probably 17 or 18 different stations, all different formats.
Beautiful.
So anyway, that's kind of the Reader's Digest version. How do you jam 50 years of experience into
right.
50 seconds? But it kind of gives you an idea.
Yeah.
I've been very, very fortunate. The people I've met, I've been all over the world, and I'm very grateful for that. So.
Well, we're grateful to have you on the show. I think with Halloween approaching, this was going to be kind of Alan's idea, but to go with a little bit of a Halloween-based episode, and we're going to kind of ask you some questions about the paranormal and stuff like that, if you're cool with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think one of the first ones that we talked a little bit about when we were talking with you last week was one of the things that we were curious about is what you thought about the fourth dimension, and is that what ghosts could be? And if you've seen the movie Interstellar, I don't know if you have, but they kind of go into the fourth dimension a little bit, and we were kind of curious about what your thoughts would be on that. Like, do you think the fourth dimension is where ghosts exist? Because I think there was also Albert Einstein's theory was that ghosts exist in a dimension that is outside of our three dimensions that we know about.
Well, you'll have to reel me in if I start running long, because
you're fine. Yeah.
But I have been studying this stuff as a broadcast journalist and as a broadcast engineer from the nuts and bolts scientific side of it. and honestly, from the anecdotal side of it, I taught long form documentaries as a college professor, and one of the things I told students was, when you're doing a documentary, it's like building a wall. The anecdotal information that people relate to you, especially when we talk about paranormal and ghosts, that is repeated thousands and thousands of times. People relate the same kind of experience. I woke up and there was a dark shadow standing at the end of the bed, and they looked like they were shocked to see me as I was them, and then they disappeared. So one of the things that I've approached some of the people who are experts in, for example, string theory and the multiverse and the issues that you bring up is, can we not see if there's not a common thread, a link between the anecdotal evidence, the experiences, the stuff that people view and experience, and possible tenets of these theoretical physics models that we're coming up with. You mentioned Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein felt that there was something to this. He made several statements, and I hope that I'm correct in quoting him. I try to be accurate. We, for example, experience time in a linear fashion. He felt that time was not a linear fashion. And this goes to the multiverse, that everything that could happen would happen, the future, the past, and now are like pages in a book, if you will, and the yellow pages lying on top of each other. And we can experience any of those time periods, any of those events, by switching in some form or fashion into those pages. Nikola Tesla said that. Okay, we just don't, in the most literal sense, we're ignorant of what we're experiencing here. For example, and how I illustrate this is, we know there's ultraviolet light. We know there's infrared light, in the electromagnetic spectrum. We can't see them, but we know they're there. We see the effects of them. I think that the possibility of, and it goes back to a lot of the teaching in the Hindu, in yogis and so forth, with regard to frequency. Nikola Tesla said this too. You hear people say they move to a higher frequency a lot of time in the religious circles in the various religions. It all comes back to frequency, according to Tesla. If you read his readings and his statements, that, and frankly, from 6 hertz, which is the resonant frequency of the Earth. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but there is an Earth tone frequency that runs around six cycles, up through gamma rays. Our eyes can only see a very small sliver of the electromagnetic spectrum. Our rods and cones are only susceptible. But that doesn't mean it's not out there. And so I think that there is a persistence of something beyond the biochemical, electrical, goo that we are, that makes us run, that does have a persistence. And I could, I seem to have lost your video at some point.
That's okay.
Okay, so anyway, let's continue
Jake
on.
disappeared for a
So anyway,
second.
to answer your question, there is too much data, too much scientific data now able to be captured to discredit this or dismiss it out of hand. And I think we're moving closer to having empirical data which substantiates. So ask me some questions that would kind of lead me in the direction to answer the kind of things that you guys are interested in hearing about.
Yeah, so you kind of started to touch on it with, like outside of the spectrum of what we can perceive, see, and hear. So like in your thoughts or opinions, really, like, what are ghosts? Because there's like Jake had, when we were talking about this, Jake had brought up like the idea of like residual ghosts, where it's kind of like they're like in a loop. Right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Jake, when we were talking about this.
No, that's right.
Sorry not to take the...
Residual ghosts who are... Yeah, that's right.
Where it's like a loop, like everyone, when they encounter these beings or spirits or whatever you want to call them, everyone sees the same thing, right? Like a little kid bouncing a ball, or a woman dressed in white that just walks down the hall.
And they're not really aware of you.
Right.
But then there's another kind of ghost
where you get like the person that wakes up and there's like a dark shadowy figure, and they're like, oh my god, and that figure reacts and then like disappears, or you see, or even with is it EMF
Right.
transmissions, where you ask questions and you get some feedback through the recordings and stuff like
Or
that.
even like menacing ghosts or spirits that
like
will like fuck with you.
a poltergeist. Like,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts or opinions? Like, are
And like,
poltergeists
why
real?
are
Or,
there different?
yeah, why are there different things? Like, what are your thoughts from your research and experiences? Like, what are those things?
As I could say this as a broadcast engineer, I have personally recorded. The EVP is what the terminology is for the, and it is inaudible generally, although occasionally there are audible examples of it where recordings are made and you don't hear anything until you bring the noise floor up of the recording 50 or 60 dB, and all of a sudden there are verbal responses. Now that brings up a lot of questions. First of all, in the old days when we started out, this was microcassette recorders, little handheld recorders, dictation recorders and so forth. So what was the mechanism? Let's go to the electronics. What was the mechanism by which that was imparted into the tape? Tape is just a piece of plastic with iron oxide on it, and it arranges it, and then when it plays back, it creates an inductive electrical pulse, which turns into a sound, and that's how you get it. So how did this entity, this being, whatever you want to term it as, force that change on the audio tape? That's one question. It gets even more bizarre, though. Today, everything's solid-state SD drive devices. So there is no moving tape. There is no iron oxide particles to be rearranged to make sound. So how does an incarnate entity, which has no vocal cords, and sound is produced by the vibration through the air that our ears pick up and turn back into electrical impulses. So how does that get imparted onto an SD card? And yet the manifestations, the evidence remains the same, if you will, the same caliber and quality, obviously from one investigation to another. I don't really have an explanation for that, except that energy is pervasive, and somehow it manipulates the SD card and gets the sound on there. Now, you could say, well, it's matrixing. Many years ago, I was interviewed for, I believe it was a History Channel program. The concept of which was just like you can when you're a kid, you lay on the ground looking at clouds, you say, oh, that looks like a bunny. Because your mind, that's part of your instinctual flight or fight type of the way the brain tries to make things fit into something that it recognizes. For example, if you're looking in a dark woods at night and you're a Cro-Magnon man and it turns out to be a saber-toothed tiger, you'd really want to be able to discern that versus a bush, because it may save you from being his dinner. So the question was, is that what people that see ghosts are? And clearly the evidence is so overwhelming now that it may be in many cases, and it may be in a lot of cases. It may be in the bulk. It's not in all cases. The point I'm making is our perception of what we see, especially in people that are not interested in it, are not of the mindset, aren't thinking about it, they're normal people going about their daily routines, that doesn't work. You can't utilize that as an excuse for saying, well, they wanted to see a ghost. No, this is, everything from state troopers to, people that are, military pilots and so on and so forth. So to answer your question, yes, there are a number of what they consider categories, and people, this is kind of the general consensus. An imprint on time, and this goes to the question of time not being linear, is where we have this loop playing back and forth of the same kind of an event.
A residual.
Right, a residual haunting. Okay. Gettysburg, where you see soldiers marching from that horrible battle, perhaps. And there's been many. I mean, you go out there and the park rangers will tell you that there's stuff that they can't explain. It freaks them out. it's not hard to believe if you try to understand this, to put yourself in I try to put it in real terms that we can understand. If you were killed traumatically, God forbid, in a car accident or some other instantaneous death that certainly was not anticipated, what happens to your consciousness at that time? How does as your physical life is snuffed out, does your conscience understand that you just got whacked by a tractor trailer and you're now dead? Or is there as many thousands of cases of trauma surgeons and ER people? I worked many years as an EMT and a paramedic. I was trained as a paramedic in
Me too.
yeah. So
I went to school to be a paramedic.
There you go. So how many? I was trained in Army ROTC out in New Mexico, and how many times have emergency room nurses or doctors had these near-death experiences where people have come back after they've checked out 3 minutes later, 5 minutes later, and said, "Hey, I didn't think the joke about my hairdo was very funny." Now, they had been dead for 7 minutes, or they had been dead for 20 minutes, and they still heard these type of things. And I've interviewed trauma surgeons that have said that it's not uncommon. How do you explain that? How do you explain the incredibly well documented cases of children or adults of reincarnation, where children had no background? We're talking, there's one very well noted case of a child who claimed he was a fighter pilot in World War II and was on a Jeep carrier at Iwo Jima or Guadalcanal, and they took this young man, when he was like 12 years old, to a reunion of the pilots off that escort carrier, and he walked right up to the guys in his wing and said, the one guy who was his wingman and saw this, theoretically who this guy originally was, saw him go down in flames, and he said, "Yeah, I know you were with me to the end. I know you said I'm not going to leave you." And this guy just broke down. This was documented on film, and this kid had no knowledge of World War II or the South Pacific or anything. It goes on and on and on. So there are documented medical cases, I believe in the AMA Journal 100 years ago, where they documented 5 grams disappear. That is not your last, it's
the
not your
weight
bodily
of your
fluid.
soul. The
Right.
weight of your soul. Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah.
How do you explain this? So, Mike, I don't have the answers, or I wouldn't be here. I'd be rich and drinking little drinks out of with umbrellas in them someplace. But it's fascinating because, again, I go back to the point that we just don't understand. But we're getting to the point with electronics where we can begin to document it and be able to analyze data better than we ever could.
I'll say this, and I have not said this on our podcast so far. I, about 3.5 years ago, died for a while, and I ended up in a coma. I was in a coma for about a month, and I experienced in my head the craziest shit that I could not make up. And I could talk for hours about it. I won't, because we're on a time crunch. But going back to what you're saying, who the fuck knows what's going on out there? Because I saw and experienced the most real, crazy shit that I can't explain. I can't explain it. And it's wild.
It's amazing. And I would only suggest that you, if you can, if you're of a mind, and it's totally up to you, that you put that pen to paper and document
it. It's
please.
Written down. It is written. I promised Chad I would send it to him, and I haven't sent it to him yet.
Yeah.
But
that's amazing. I mean, thank goodness you're back.
Yeah.
But that is, you are living proof through your experience of what I'm talking about. And I can't speak to that because I haven't experienced it. But there is a difference between living things and inanimate objects. There's a difference between human beings and a horse. And our soul and the incredible correlation of thought patterns between twins, for example. These kind of things are well documented. I don't have an explanation. That's a rhetorical question. But the point is, there's something going on. It's not all made up. It's not people that are, whack jobs that are spaced out or, coke addicts or whatever. There's a lot of people that experience these activities, poltergeists, and so on. And it really screws up them personally, their families. They leave their homes, and they're normal, regular people until this stuff happens. And I don't know whether there's a greater, because of the media, and certainly for the last 10 or 15 years, the shows, or whether there's a greater incidence of these things happening. I never heard any of this stuff when I was a kid.
No.
You never heard of anything. So bring me another question so you can keep it going.
So what, in addition to like, and I agree with you full-heartedly. I could talk to you like one-on-one about this for hours. I guarantee it. I've experienced.
We would love, like, even me who hasn't experienced it. Like, I would love to just like sit down and like do this for hours. I find it so fascinating.
But trying to keep on track, and with what we're saying, we're at least what we were just talking about. We would like to know what is, if any, the most intense experience that you have had with a ghost or entity, spirit, or even if it was just not even a ghost in particular, but like a something
like
that you were
a
like
moment, or the most unsettling. It doesn't even have to be like the most like clenching your seat intense, but like what was the most like intense or scarier? Yeah.
Well, there's been a number of them. I'll tell you one that, and I don't scare too easily, because I try to look at it. First of all, there's very, very few cases where people have been physically harmed by this phenomenon. There have been, so it's not to be discredited. I was a trustee for the Red Mill Museum in Clinton, New Jersey, for a number of years, and actually did the episode with Ghost Hunters when they came in there, and they had some interesting evidence. Now, I always tell people, look, shows are on television to make money and sell advertising. They're entertainment, but that doesn't mean that they should all be dismissed as not being credible at all. But in preparation for that meeting, I was going to do some EVP in the mill. It's a 220-year-old mill. Amazing place. It's on the grounds with 10 acres, and there's about 10 other buildings in there. There's a quarry there and so on. So it had quite an industrial revolution kind of history with it. I was in there one Sunday afternoon. There was nobody else on the property. It was closed. And I just had a computer with me. I was going to do some EVP stuff. And my oldest son was with me, who works in television. And we heard the most incredibly loud bang. Sounded like somebody took a garage door and dropped it on the concrete floor. I mean, it was almost ear-splitting loud. And I must have jumped 3 feet. I was down on the first floor where the water wheel was. And he looked at me and goes, geez, what fell? So we went through the entire building and could find absolutely nothing, no door that slammed, and it was so loud that at that time the administrative assistant was in the administration building, was about 100 feet away inside, finishing up some paperwork that she had to do. I believe she was taking time off the next week, and she came over and she knocked on the door. The mill was locked up. We were in there, and she came in and she goes, what happened? What was it? It sounded like a gunshot or something. I said, I don't know. She said, well, it clearly came out of the building. And she said, I thought you guys might have gotten hurt or something. A wall fell or so. That's how. So strange and so contained in terms of the scenario and the circumstances. It definitely got my attention. But let me tell you another thing that happened. A couple years later, on a Sunday again, I was down there after a Saturday overnight. We would literally rent the place out to investigative groups to come in and do investigations. It was a good fundraiser for the mill, and a lot we had.
So this
literally
is in the same place?
Same place, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Just because the references there, it's
fuck. I keep moving it, and my table doesn't.
That's
like
okay.
It. I'm sorry.
So I am. The end of the day, I'm getting ready to lock up. There's nobody in the building. I've verified that. That all 3 floors are empty. There's no light. It's dusk, and I hear the most horrible, moanful man's moaning for at least 10 or 15 seconds, and it was loud. It was sad and creepy. This kind of a thing that went on for 10 or 15 seconds. It was so loud that when it stopped, it echoed for a second or a second and a half. I don't know if you're an audio guy, you understand. It's like, wow, this was like, what the heck? There are no speaker systems in there. We don't have any, audio tours or any of that. I said, so somebody's in here jerking me around. So I went to the 3rd floor. I walked every inch of the building and could find nothing. But here's where, and this again, is I'm connecting dots that may or may not need to be connected. We had just opened up an exhibit on the 2nd floor, which was an exhibit of practices for the mentally ill, and it had exhibits from Greystone there. We had some of the shackles where the patients were shackled to the wall, some of the electroshock theory, pictures and instruments from doing lobotomies and stuff. That was the only thing that was different there. And I'll never forget that, because I'll tell you what, that still makes the hair go up on the back of my neck. There was no way to explain it.
I think that's actually a really good segue into our last couple questions, is that we wanted to share with you. We're both believers, huge believers. And we both wanted to share with you at least one experience that we have both had.
Please do. I'd love to
separately. And Chad, you go first. And then we want to know what you think about that experience. So go ahead, Chad.
So when I was younger, I was very religious. We won't get into that. But for a long time growing up, I was like, ooh, demons. Like, this was a demon thing. Now that I've gotten older and I don't necessarily believe what I believed, I'm like, I still can't deny that this event happened, but now I'm just curious as to what someone who has knowledge would think. So one summer, I was a counselor at a camp, and I just couldn't sleep one night. So I was like, it's early, I'm going to go watch the sunrise over the lake, whatever. I went out there. It was like 4 a.m. I was sitting out there. I was just, relaxing, waiting for the sun to come up. And I just felt this eerie presence. Like, I did not feel like I was alone anymore. No one was around me. And I was like, this is creepy. I don't feel right. Also, mind you, back then I was at a church camp. It's like, the devil's working. But I just felt really uncomfortable. So I got up and started walking back to my cabin. There were lights all on one side of the path, no lights on the other side. It was just if the lights weren't on, it would just be black. And I was walking, so I could see my shadow off to the left. And as I started walking down this pathway, there was another shadow going towards the light that I could visually see. And it was reaching out for me. And I just remember getting freaked out and basically running back to my cabin, because I was based on lighting and everything, that shadow should not have existed. I was not alone. Based on your experiences, I mean, nothing ever touched me. I just felt uneasy. But what, I guess, what does it mean?
In your opinion, not actually.
Yeah, and it's worth everything you're paying for it. But let me tell you this, and this is after a good 40 years of not full-time investigation. I mean, we all got to live in the real world and earn a living. But I am of the opinion, and a lot of this is based on empirical fact also, that if you could turn a light switch, first of all, it doesn't have to be a 200-year-old building, Halloween Eve, and a full moon at midnight. There is a lot more activity historically and documented activity at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I think there's a number of reasons for that. Not the least of which is it's quiet and we're able to pick up the evidence and record it. Now, that's kind of, if I understand correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, that's kind of the time when you had this experience just before sunrise, 3, 4 in the morning. I think, and I have been to enough places, it doesn't have to be it could be a brand new office complex. It could be, in the middle of a bus station. It could, as we've seen, evidence of people that have done investigations. I think if you could turn a light switch and discern whatever these entities are, every place would look like the waiting room of a railroad station. That I think we are surrounded. I think, you were very religious. We're told that our angels, our family members, our deceased relatives and friends are all watching us, they just can't interact with us unless it's an extraordinary circumstance. I think that's a very reasonable conclusion to come to based on the anecdotal evidence. What did you see? You saw a shadow. People hear voices. They hear, stuff that people couldn't possibly make up because they don't know these people, but there's something said, there's something that happens. Back to your question, I think that if the truth were known, if we could flip a switch and now perceive these entities, these spirits, these people, these angels, whatever you want to term them, that we're up to our elbows in. We don't bump into them because the matter does not, connect itself. We don't see them, and we only occasionally perceive they're there. And I think that I'll give you an analogy. So who was that? What was that you saw? Obviously you were not in the mindset, Chad, of I'm thinking about ghosts, or we just watched Halloween, or any of that. So your mind wasn't focused on that, looking for some type of evidence that conformed with what you were thinking about consciously. So that's not an answer. But something happened to you. The physics of the light and the shadow were contrary, if I understand your explanation, to what should have happened. Yeah. So I don't have an explanation for it. But here's what I tell people. And it's the skeptics. It's the same of any unexplained phenomenon. So look, I don't expect you to believe me. If your dad came in and said, I'm not drinking, I'm not a nutcase, I'm a normal guy, I just saw a Revolutionary War soldier walk through that wall, as plain as day, you'd say, Dad, I love you. I know you're not a nut, but how can I relate that to my daily life experience? The other side of that coin is, and I have talked to hundreds of people that have said, you know what, once it happens, and people have a lot of reactions. Either they shut it out of their mind, they don't want to deal with it, so they just they dispel it and say, nothing happened, I don't want to talk about it. Or more than numerous times, most times people say, you know what, I know what I saw, I know what I experienced. You can never, ever tell me that my view of life in this world and what we are will ever be the same. It's a game changer. Yeah. Now, I don't have an answer. I don't know what that means, but I will never look at my existence in the same way again. And I think it goes back to where I'm at. I find it fascinating. I don't have all the answers. But the fact that you can never go back and put that genie in a bottle once it happens. It happened to you. You'll never forget that experience. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I don't know what it is.
And the fact that it's across the world. It's not just like an American thing where
it's not a cultural thing.
Yeah. No, it's literally, there are stories over the globe of what, and I'm going to talk about just mine for a minute, but like,
and thanks for sharing that. I mean, but I don't know what it is. But you experience. I can't tell you didn't experience, because that, and nobody's going to talk you out of it. Say, look, I don't give a damn whether you like it or not.
Yeah,
I don't care what you say about me. I know what I saw. I know what happened. I know how it affected me, and I will never get it out of my mind. It's in my soul now that it happened.
Yeah. I lived in a house in St. Paul, West St. Paul, and there were multiple things. One of the first things was I traveled for work, and I was out of town. I was in California. I came back, and my roommate and I worked different shifts. So he worked at night. I worked during the day, so we never ran into each other. It was great. I came home and with like my duffel bag in hand, and and he's like, "Where were you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've been in California for like 3 days. I left a note on the fridge for you." And he was like, "What?" He's like, "I've been hearing you upstairs because my bedroom was upstairs uh, for the past like couple days, like walking around back and
Not
forth."
me,
He's like,
baby.
I was like, "It wasn't me." And that there was this weird there right by the stairs. There's this attic door. So my room was the attic room,
Right.
if you can imagine.
Sure.
And
Three-story walk up.
there was this little like latch that you put on this door right at the top of the stairs, and you
Little
could go
clip.
in.
Yeah. Hook.
Like a,
Right.
yeah, like a storage or whatever.
Yeah, and like one of those sliding bolts that you find in like public
Oh yeah.
toilets,
Slide
sort of
yeah,
things.
Slide
Yeah.
lock. Yeah. Okay.
And I
Gotcha.
would go when I would wake up to go to work in the morning, that door with the bolt would be undone and the door would be open like that far. And it would make me so uneasy to like walk past that door because I would latch it
Latch it.
every time. And it was like multiple times. And then his girlfriend who lived with us while I was at work, I came home one day and my laundry that I had left in the dryer was like all over the floor, like right outside my door. And I was like, Jesus, she must be pissed at me
Yeah. Right.
for leaving my shit in the dryer. And I was like, hey, what the hell? And she was like, oh my God, thank God you're home. And I was like, why did you throw my fucking laundry all over the floor? And she's like, I didn't. I did. But she's like, you weren't here. Charlie wasn't here. That was my roommate. And she's like, I opened your door to like bring your clothes upstairs for you. And somebody pulled the door out of my hands and closed it. And she was like, I threw your shit in the air and I ran downstairs. And so when
Well,
I
let me
came
tell you
home,
though. But I mean, could you imagine experiencing that?
as
That
her,
would
yeah.
so
Oh,
freak you
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
That how could you ever not have that in your mind
Yeah.
after that? All
Well,
kidding
it's-
aside,
And it
it's
was
not
all
even
up
funny,
in my
man.
room, which is like the craziest part is all up in my room where I fucking lived. It was weird. Yeah.
Let me share something with you, and I've told this to many people, and a lot of people don't want to go near it. But if you really want to see how pervasive, and the easiest thing to do is the EVP, go to, well, if you want to, go to Walmart, buy a $29 Sony digital recorder, tiny little recorder. That's all you need. Put an SD card in it for $15. Buy a couple AA batteries, and I don't care where you do it. Do it in your house, do it in your office. When there's nobody there, just turn it on and let it record for 12 hours.
Nope.
Put a headset in it, crank it up, and listen.
I'm good.
And I'll tell you what, I mean, I have done that so many places where people were like, I don't really wish you hadn't told me this. Let me answer some other questions if I may. But once again, you cannot tell people that have had an experience that are normal, rational people that it didn't happen. They know what they experienced. It may not be the explanation or how it happened the way they may think or that we know how it happened, but they experienced it.
Yeah.
And of course, there are times when your imagination, or you wake up, you're half asleep or something, and you could get confused. But not all of them. Go ahead. What would you guys like to ask me?
I think
that's pretty much it.
That's everything that's everything that we wrote down just because we had said this is only like a 40-minute show.
We definitely kind of hit our time, but I mean, I think that everything that we went over was so good that people can just deal with a slightly longer episode this week. That's fine.
And if you're willing, we would love to have you back on.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
But let me say something that I think needs to be said, and I say it every time I do an interview as much as I can, and that is, I don't have all the answers. The sun doesn't rise and set on me on this stuff, and I don't ask people. I don't try to convince people of anything. To me, it's fascinating. I'm not so full of myself that I think I have observed and I have investigated. I have been very, very lucky to go all over the world and do things that a lot of people don't have the option. But just because I say it doesn't mean that that's valid or relevant or true or correct. And I would never be so arrogant as to tell people, well, I got the answer and this is what it is. What I would say is if you have an open mind, there are a lot of fascinating things out there that to me, and you guys exploring this stuff, I think that discussing it is so far ahead of what we did when I was a kid. I mean,
Yeah.
stuff it was all science fiction movies and, creature feature nonsense. And that's fine. It's entertainment. There's a place for that too. But I think there's a place where science and these investigations can come together. And to me, that's mind blowing, because that allows me to spend some of my time and not have to worry about paying taxes or what's the price of milk this week and the normal crap we all have to go through in life on a day-to-day basis. It gives me a reason to say there's so many more things that are beyond mind-blowingly interesting out there, that to me, that distraction is a positive thing. And once again, I never discredit anybody. I never tell them what to think. But I think that we're coming to the realization that it is real. There is something going on. We just don't have the answers. I just wanted to say that. I don't want people to think I'm a guru and I know everything about everything, because I'm not. I thank you guys for having me on. It's great meeting you guys. It really is.
Yeah, and with that, Bruce, how can people find you online that are interested in these things? Like, what are some things that you're currently working on? How can people find you on like social media? If you're on social media?
Yeah, I am on Facebook. Here's the thing. I have never really tried to promote myself as far as that. I mean, I've been very gratified and humbled by people asking me to be on these shows and stuff. But I'm not much of a self-promoter, because I don't think that's not the job of a journalist or an investigator in my perspective. And so to answer your question, I give you my email, I guess. It's Pearson Media Group at Gmail. That's really,
Tell us the Gmail.
Yeah, Pearson Media Group at gmail.com.
At gmail.com.
All right, guys.
And I'm on Facebook, Bruce Pearson. You can find me there. See my ugly mug. So,
Well, guys, for our listeners, anybody who is interested in learning more or maybe having a conversation with Bruce, now you know where to find him. Give him an email or find him on Facebook. And this has been a lot of fun.
I'll try to get back to you as quickly and as efficiently as possible. I'm usually running way too much. So if I don't get back to you, it's not because I'm being rude or dismissing you. It's just I haven't plowed through the field yet. So.
Well, again, we would really love to have you back on the show.
Anytime.
It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
We're going to
wish you guys the best.
Hey, back at you.
Thank you so much for being a part of this, Bruce, and we look forward to talking to you in the future.
Thank you.
Have a good night, Bruce.
Thank you, guys. Be safe.
All right, you too. Bye.
Right.
All right, guys. That was an awesome interview. Thank you, Bruce, again, for coming on the show. That was a lot of fun. We do have, if you guys want to check out the unedited version of that interview, please check out our Patreon. The link will be in the show notes. On top of that, we're going to go to our second sponsor, which is Crybaby Craig's. It's a pickled habanero and garlic hot sauce that goes on practically anything. Listen up.
Hey, you nerds. Do you love spice? Supporting small businesses? What about enhancing the flavor of your favorite foods? If you said yes to any of those, our good friends over at Crybaby Craig's have the perfect solution for you. Crybaby Craig's is a pickled habanero and garlic hot sauce that goes perfectly with your favorite foods, adding the perfect amount of spice and enhancing the flavor of everything it touches. Started in Minneapolis by Craig back in 2012, Crybaby Craig's has become a Minneapolis and Minnesota staple in the sauce world. So head over to crybabycraigs.com and order yours today. All right, guys. Welcome back. Thank you for sticking through that interview. I hope that you guys found it as fascinating as we did.
That was a lot of fun. I want to have him back on immediately.
We will have him back on. And we talked to him for much more than what you guys got a chance to listen to.
Yeah.
So if you found it interesting, head over to our Patreon
right there.
At any level of giving, you will get that full unabridged interview. It was so much fun to get a chance to talk with Bruce. with that being said, we did promise that we were going to talk a little bit about Titans in the season finale, but also Dune came out this week, so we're going to talk about both. We're going to start with Titans, so that we end on a great note. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't terrible. It just also wasn't great, but it has me excited for the future.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about Dune later. So yeah, Jake.
Just Titans.
They exist.
It was it was the best mediocre season finale that you could ask for. It was like, yeah, it's the season finale. They're gonna do something awesome, and then you were like, well, they did something.
We do get a chance to see Tim Drake kind of step up, and by that I mean he throws like one jumping kick and a punch. Both of them did damage, but like a nat 15 for your D&D players out there, like
I think we just have to accept that he's gonna be a part of the show, and it's like, you know.
But so far it's been super underwhelming.
I would really like to see Damien become a part of the show.
Dude, can you imagine like a 10 to 12-year-old just like fucking shit up and just like owning everybody?
Like just beating the shit out of Nightwing would be amazing. Like a little kid. Hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, the show ended with
I mean, Scarecrow gets defeated. Because of course he did.
What? Oh, but they did kind of do something cool with him in the end, where he was like, prison? Whatever. I've been in prison before. And then Dick is like, not like this. And then Rachel, Raven, comes in and basically like gives him like a brain STD where he's like,
because I guess we didn't really go over this. In order to like save Gotham from the death toxin, I guess, they basically took the water from the Lazarus pit, but able to do that, to use it, Raven had to absorb all of the negative life that had gone into it before. So she was just kind of like holding it, you know, like a backup magazine, or like a Debbie Downer grenade.
Yeah.
And so she just like vomits into Scarecrow's mouth hole. With all this negative things that have happened in the Lazarus pit. They were downplaying it because it wasn't done in a super cinematic, like, exciting way. It was a great episode. It was a really good season. They just took too long to explain everything that happened.
There was probably like 3 episodes that didn't need to be in this season.
Yeah, so they could have kept it at 10 episodes per season like they have for the first 2.
Yeah. And we got the...
I still love this show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We shit on this show. Or actually...
We shit on everything.
We only shit on this season. I think that the biggest thing for me was that, or you and I, we've talked about this multiple times, is that this is our 3rd season with this show, and every single fucking season, Dick Grayson is like, I'm gonna do everything by myself because these kids aren't ready to like do shit. And then he gets his fucking ass kicked, and then at the season finale he's like, all right, we're stronger together. But then season 2 rolls around and he's like, I'm gonna do everything by myself. Gets his ass kicked, And then he's like, oh God, we're stronger together. And then this season, we're like, oh, thank God Dick's done doing this dumb shit. And he's like, I'm going to do everything myself. And he gets fucking killed, comes back to life. And he's like,
Literally bodied.
get everybody together. We're stronger together. And it's like, can you please fucking stop doing this?
See,
like,
what blew my mind in this season, because I was like, he's going to be smarter. And then for some reason, I don't know if everybody saw this or if it was just me, he just like put on a red shirt and was like, hello, Captain Kirk. I volunteer. Like,
I was like, I don't remember putting on a red shirt, but no, I see where you went with it. Yeah.
Yeah, he just like, come on, like.
Yeah. He's like, hey, I'm going to blow kryptonite in Connor's face, the strongest person in my group.
And also, like,
hey.
the number one person in the finale that helped, I don't know, fucking save, like, hundreds of people that, you know, died.
Anyways, hopefully season 4, when he says, let's get everyone together, he actually means it. We're gonna move on.
Yeah, but it'll be like the 8th or 9th episode when he really means it. But for those of you that don't know, the Titans have been confirmed for a 4th season. I love the show. It's just that there's a lot of little things that just piss us off.
I'm really hoping, and don't get me wrong, I love what's his name? Justin Thwaites? Something Thwaites?
That plays Dick Grayson?
Yeah. I know his last name's Thwaites.
I don't remember his name. He's an Aussie actor, but like he fills the role really well.
Well, I really hope he dies. Because Nightwing is not a Titan.
But he still exists. I just hope that like eventually he just kind of like goes away.
Yeah.
But with like Tim Drake coming in and then
hopefully Damian.
And but also with that, Tim Drake in the comics does just like he dies. We did see Tim Drake die and then come back in this season. But like in the comics, like Tim Drake is just like he dead. Like OMG dead, like real dead.
Like DED dead.
Just dead.
We gotta move on.
Dead.
We gotta move on.
Yeah, we can move on.
To the bigger, better thing that came out. Dune.
Oh my fucking God.
Dune. Timothy Chalamet.
Timothy Chalamet.
You're a sexy little 17-year-old looking kid. All right.
He's definitely older than that, but so it's not weird that Jake said that.
The point is, he's a handsome guy, and
Dune was incredible.
This movie was so fucking good. The only qualm, I'm gonna use qualm in every episode we do now. Expect it, guys. The only qualm I have with this.
Sorry, Mom, for using vocabulary.
Or like sexualizing a kid who looks like he's like 17.
Well, you're not calling him by his name.
I'm
sorry.
kidding.
Sorry on both accounts for that, because
I'm sorry for all of this. I'm actually very straight. I have a girlfriend, and I'm not attracted to little boys.
I'm sorry for referencing a movie that promotes underage lovers between
this movie is awesome, but my qualm with it is that they are definitely dragging the fucking shit out of this movie. The entire first half of this movie could have been summed up in like 20 minutes. Everything important that happened in the second half of the movie, which was amazing. I mean,
the first half of the movie was still amazing. Don't get me wrong, but it could have been done in a quarter of the time.
If any of you are as old as me, I'm 34, you remember this movie when we were kids. It was an awesome movie at the time. Patrick Stewart's in this movie. It was fucking amazing. But it was one movie.
Granted, they rushed that movie.
They literally took the first like quarter or maybe a little more of this movie and put it into 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours of an original like movie. It's a lot of.
This is where I disagree.
Have you seen the original?
I have. It was a long time ago. I haven't like rewatched it in years. But I mean, the original novel had a lot of, because you're taking a lot of words for backstory, right? I don't think that the Dune series needs to be 3+ movies. 2 movies, I get.
Well, it's not a series.
I know they're gonna make it. Well, the book was.
The book was one book. The movie was one movie. There is no series. They're making it a series.
But the original movie, I mean, granted, a lot of the backstory that they did very quickly, but the way that they concluded it was also very quickly. So, like, I can see this being 2 movies, but they're projecting it for 3 or more. That's too much.
Yeah.
Do it in 2 movies. I would be happy with that. I would love that. I can deal with, like you said, the first half of this movie was very
and I think I
slow.
told you before either of us watched this movie, I was like, I hope to God it's one movie and they don't try to drag this out into and then I saw it and I was like, and they said part 1. Like 5 minutes into the movie goes part 1. And I was like, oh, God damn it.
And, like, for the most part, I can live with a part 1 and part 2.
That would be fine. I'd be cool with
like
a two-parter.
Okay with that.
Because they're just going to take little details and stretch them from, like, this is what it needs to be, and this is what they're going to fucking make it. And it's like, stop. We don't need all of that weird shit in there.
And the thing that should be this, if they expanded it to this, I'm happy. Because, like, you get a little bit more backstory. Because, like, as I was telling you, as, like, I watched this, like, the first half of the movie, I was like, there's a lot of, like, backstory and building and stuff like that. And I was like, there's a lot going on. Like, I kind of get it. I'm sure it'll be explained. And then it was explained. And then it just, like, ended. And I was like, well, I would have liked to see more.
Other than shitting on it,
this movie was
just what we do. It was
fucking
so good.
Incredible.
The cinematography was amazing. And I cannot express this to anybody enough. Go to the theaters. Go back to the theaters. I saw this in Dolby Digital, which means that the fucking floor, my seat, everything was shaking every time a fucking ship took off. I felt like I was in a spaceship.
I watched it from home. I streamed it, and I was like, this is incredible. I need to experience this in, like, a full theater situation. So I'm going to go see it in the next, like, 2 days again.
Yeah.
And
I'll do vice versa. I'll probably. I think my girlfriend wants to watch it. I don't know. Maybe we'll watch it. But it was so amazing in the theater on the big screen. You guys got to get back to the theaters and watch this. If you're vaccinated, you're safe to go to the theaters. If you're not vaccinated, get vaccinated. Go to the theaters.
Or go to a theater where you just have to wear a mask.
Yeah.
If you're, for whatever reason, against that. We're not going to talk on that, but get vaccinated or wear a mask, and then go see this in the theaters. Because, like, honestly, it was, like, I don't even have that big of a TV. It was incredible to watch. I want to see it again. I don't have special speakers, and the score, it was Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
Hans Zimmer did the
He
scoring
did
for this. He
Dark
turned
Knight movies.
he's been a huge influence on so many Christopher Nolan films that he literally turned down working on Tenet for Christopher Nolan to do the score for this film. Like, absolutely incredible. Hans Zimmer also, if I'm not mistaken, did a lot of the Lord of the Rings composing.
Also, the cast in this movie is insane. Bautista, Stellan Skarsgård,
Yeah, Stellan
Timothy Chalamet,
Skarsgård, Zendaya,
who else is
Oscar Isaac,
Oscar Isaac, fucking what's Aquaman? What's his name?
Jason Momoa.
Jason Momoa. Wait, I mean, it's insane. Josh Brolin.
Josh Brolin, as well as Rebecca Ferguson.
Oh, Rebecca Ferguson,
who plays Timothy's mom, Paul's mom.
Yeah. It's insane.
Incredible. It's so
crazy
stacked. I always get them confused. It's not Benicio del Toro. My God. Javier Bardeen.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why I always get them confused, but I do, because they're very different. But Javier Bardeen is...
Wow. Because they're both Mexican.
Wow, that's super hurtful.
Racist.
No. It's because they're both incredible actors. Yeah. And they're such expressive actors with such limited dialogue. But Javier Bardem is in this as well, and it's just so good. It's the honest truth. If I was just mistaken because they look alike, I would admit
I'm just being
it.
An asshole. I'm sorry.
Clearly, but no, the cast and crew on this is incredible, and it's just
it's great. Great movie. Go check it out.
If you're in a position to go see it in the theaters, please do that.
I seriously urge you to go see this in the theaters. Please give these actors and producers and everybody that works on these movies the fucking credit they deserve.
Also, that's how we're gonna get the full story. Is if they make the money that they need to fund the next couple.
Yeah.
So go see it in the theaters. If you have to wear a mask, if you have to go someplace that requires a vaccination, go do it. Just do it and be done with it, and see incredible filmmaking at its finest. This is honestly, after watching it, the feelings that I had was the same as after watching Lord of the Rings in middle school. In theaters, I was just I wanted more, and it was so well done.
I literally was checking my watch.
So good.
And, every time something cool would happen, I was like, don't end. And I was looking at my watch, and then when I got close to the time that it was gonna end, I was like, don't you fucking do it. And then it ended, and I was like, God damn it! I knew they were gonna fucking end it right there, you bastards.
Yeah, the movie is 2.5 hours long.
Yeah.
It's so good. Honestly, for all the shit that we threw on this at the start of talking about it, about our qualms, it starts a little slow.
I love it. It's such a fun word.
I think there's an L in the word qualm. I think it's qualm. Qualm. Either way. We put a lot of emphasis as to how slow it started, but this movie, in the grand scheme of things, is just so good, and I just want more of it.
Yeah, go check it out. We're gonna close this episode out, but before we do, there are a few things we want to talk to you about.
One of those being, if you guys were as intrigued as we were with that interview with Bruce, The full interview will be up on our Patreon. So head over to our Patreon at any level of giving that you guys decide to give to us. It helps promote and produce everything that we do. You'll get that full unedited interview, it's just absolutely fascinating. This guy knows so much and has experienced so much. And then on top of that, we also have, our web store, which has another way that you guys can give and support us. Because everything that we make from this show, we just put right back into it for giveaways.
We don't make
new
any
merch.
money from this.
Yeah, absolutely zero. But yeah, so with that being said, Jake, why don't you go ahead and close us out?
This has been the All Things Nerd podcast.
And we love you.
I'm drunk. Sorry, guys. That's the point
fine.
of this podcast. Love you guys.